We live in the greatest state in the Union and arguably the finest place in the world, but that privilege comes with some unique risks. And Alaskans know that we face higher risks of natural disasters than many of our countrymen. Natural disasters can upend lives. They can be incredibly destructive. Many of them in Alaska, though, because of our small population and our spread out population density, don't hit the limits, don't hit the levels that FEMA requires to be declared a federal disaster. Mr. President, unlike some states, Alaskans come to one another's aid even if the feds don't. And that's a great bragging point for our state. We have a tremendous, an exemplary team of people in the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs who show up. They are there on the ground. They help Alaskans to understand their options and what's available. They guide people through sometimes terrible federal paperwork processes to get just a little help getting back on your feet when a natural disaster has knocked you flat. Mr. President, in a couple of those situations recently, we discovered some significant gaps in what's available when Alaska's governor declares a disaster, but the president does not. Senate Bill 236 fixes two of those issues. The first is that under the current law, when there's an Alaska state-level disaster that doesn't get a federal disaster declaration, the maximum amount you can receive, a household can receive, is $21,000. Mr. President, that doesn't even get you back to your knees, much less back onto your feet. Especially when you look at the level of damage that can undercut a foundation, can crush a roof or a wall, and with the high costs of construction, repair, and renovation in remote areas of Alaska, it's simply not sufficient to move the needle. The other problem we discovered, Mr. President, is that the way our laws are written today, help that's available to a homeowner for a single-family dwelling is not available to someone who owns a condo when one of the common interest elements of that condo suffers the damage. The foundation, the exterior walls, the roof, those are all owned in common. Mr. President, SB 236 fixes both of those problems. Alaskans who are part of a condo association, when this bill passes, can use the assistance they get from the state to help with damage caused by a disaster that is a common responsibility of the condo association and assessed to that unit owner. It also helps with the cost, Mr. President, by capping the amount of state aid in a disaster at the greater of $50,000 or half what FEMA pays. So many years from now, as FEMA gradually keeps up with consumer cost inflation, not construction cost inflation, someday the feds will pay enough that that $50,000 will go up. That will be probably decades hence, Mr. President. So two simple fixes: a little more help, enough to at least get you back to your knees, and equal treatment for those whose home happens to be a condo. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm happy to take questions, and I urge the members to support the legislation.